that which they call religious. And I think it's also very important here to acknowledge, we have been talking about political factors, and when Peter was talking about, no, let's address the political first, I all of a sudden thought of Kwame Nkrumah, whose slogan in fighting for independence was, "Seek ye political kingdom first, and the rest will follow." But I thought I would add to this and say, seek ye knowledge or epistemic freedom first. And by this I mean, let us first invest in understanding. And to understand is not to affirm. It is simply to understand, and it means to understand what is happening. But for the most part, we start from a point that itself needs to be interrogated. So the foundations of where we start from often gets overlooked, and they are not problematized to such an extent that we just start from stage number 2 instead of starting from stage number 1. What do I mean this in concrete? Really do interrogate your understanding of religion, because how you understand it and conceptualize it has implications for policy. And there is a history to how you understand it. So often remember, contextualize, historicize. And this is very important in approaching religious questions. It is my contention that currently, the way we are dealing with religious questions, be it in the Middle East, be it here in Europe, be it in Africa, is based on a particular understanding and particular conception of religion. I don't have the appropriate definition of what religion is or how we should understand religion, but what I can only say is I see there is a problem in how we conceptualize religion. We are coming from somewhere. It is not uncommon to hear people saying that religion is violent, religion is divisive, religion is absolutist. But of course, those in the history of things would know that this is not just there. It is coming from somewhere. Something happened in some 30 years at some point where there was something that was referred to as religious wars, and people were said to have butchered each other in the name of religion. As a result, religion is not the best thing for us to address public affairs, therefore it must go away. Okay? So we have this secular understanding that emerges, for instance, from the Enlightenment period. We are not going to do that now, into that history now, but if we go to the Enlightenment period, it gives us a particular understanding of religion. It's not only the understanding of religion that we need to do or where it is coming from, but as I said, how you understand it influences what you do. If religion is absolutist and it made people to butcher each other, then it is bad. What then remains good? The secular. So you end up with a secular religious binary. And then to these binaries, you attach particular values. You know, religion goes with all the negatives and the secular comes with all the positives. And then you then tend to justify anything that is done in the name of the secular, and then tend to justify anything that is done in the name, to disqualify anything that is done in the name of religion. So it becomes okay to bomb them in the name of, from the point of view of secular, into peace. Yeah? You bomb them into peace. What a performative contradiction there is. But it's basically because of where you're starting from. And I think this is very, very fundamental. In the interest of time, I would just say, for me, conflict transformation starts from the underlying conception of the ideas that we work with. Because we tend, for the most part, to take for granted the categories that we work with. I think we can get into more detail about this in the Q&A. Interreligious dialogue, it is indeed a welcome move, and I think I do agree that we have to invest in it. But I think there is a sense in which also that interreligious dialogue comes in as, to start with, people say actually deal with the religious question first, and then let's go to serious business, yeah? So religion, even if it is part of the mix, it tends to be perceived as something that is, marginal. We have serious business to do. Let's just sort with this religious thing. It's kind of nagging us. So we push, let's deal with it and then go to real business. But I think this is where we also miss the thing. If you go to the track 1, track 2, and track 3 diplomacy, religion tends to be put in track 2. Civil society, it's soft power thing, it's the goodness of things and so forth, But real business gets done in track 1. Top military leaders, yeah? Negotiations at UN, conferences of particular nature. Let's go and talk about Syria in Geneva or something like this. But I think conflict transformation will require that we invest in religious peace building. And religious peace building doesn't mean that you are subscribing to a particular beliefs of a particular religion. No, it simply means you are saying there are potentialities within the religious realm, but you are not taking them for granted. You bring the religious dynamics on board, also problematizing them. So I think this has to be understood, because I've heard people say we don't want religious peace building because they assume you have to be religious for you to engage in religious peace building, which is a misreading of religious literacy. Religious literacy has 2 dimensions. First one, okay, you can understand the details, substantive details of particular religious traditions, number 1. But number 2 is, how do you actually look at it? How do you actually look at religion? How do you read religion? How do you come through it? I think this is another type of religious literacy we need to take into consideration. On religious, inter-religious dialogue, I just want to speak to the assumed separation between religion and the secular. Because we tend to think that this separation between the religious and the secular is a given. Yeah? And it is not. I think it's time we know that it is not. There are contexts where the religious and the secular are just intertwined. In some parts of Africa, for example, a chief is both a political leader and a religious leader. And religion permeates all sectors of society, economics, law, what have you. So the assumption that we can separate these also does have practical implications when we actually dive in to do whatever we do from a practical point of view, but as well as how we encounter people. It also has implications. So I want to conclude by saying that conflict transformation starts from the underlying conception of the ideas that we work with. We need to clarify for ourselves what we mean by religion, what we mean by religious violence, what we mean by politics, what we mean by justice, and what we mean by security. We all subscribe to security, don't we? We all subscribe to justice, don't we? But we really have to historicize those categories. Let's not also assume that how we understand them is everybody's understanding. Engage with people where they are and try to find solutions in the same way. So if I wanted to be more radical, I would say religion exists only in what people do or say, and people never do or say anything outside the political and the historical context from which they do or say something. Let me end this provocatively, and maybe we can get to the conversation at an appropriate time. Thank you so much.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.